All right, defeat for Celtic last night in our final league phase match in the UEFA Champions League. We went down 4-2 to Aston Villa. It means that we finished 21st in the Giant League table, and we've got a nice, easy knockout tie to look forward to against either Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. Nice and easy. We're discussing all of that today. Okay, Enda is with me today. Enda, how are you after all of that stuff that I've just said? That rather scary stuff that I've just said.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. If you showed me the scoreline without seeing the game, I'd probably be like, yeah, as expected. But given that it finished 4-2, probably could have been more, probably could have been less. It's like one of those ones where you have to come away pretty happy with how Celtic performed. They went up against Aston Villa, who I thought were probably on paper out of the entire group that we got the most difficult opponents in terms of how Celtic play and how they play. I thought it would have been like it had potential to be a really nightmarish night for Celtic. It didn't turn out to be that. Turned out to be a pretty decent night. And overall, you can come away with that saying, look, that was a good performance on a difficult night. Scoreline probably reflected Aston Villa being a better team. Couple of bad mistakes, and it maybe could have been a draw, but overall, you have to be pretty satisfied. Nice easy draw to go into the playoffs now. Two giants of Europe coming up against the giant of Europe. So I mean, that's the Champions League, no easy games, and we certainly didn't get lucky with who we're going to potentially be playing.
Yeah, it's tough stuff at this top level, isn't it? And yeah, I mean it's a tough one to take, always lose, and I think Celtic fans more so than other supports really kind of struggle to accept defeats because we're not used to them. And yeah, I mean it's always frustrating to lose a game, especially when that late goal goes in to kind of make the scoreline look a bit worse. I agree with you. I mean, I think Aston Villa are a pretty slick side. Tielemans is a hell of a player. Morgan Rogers looks unbelievable. I've never seen that guy play before. Had no idea he was English either. But I mean, he's going to. Right. I think I looked up. I think he's played a couple of games for England. He's going to play, tens of games for England because he's a hell of a player. Watkins is a really good striker. So you're up against all of that in that atmosphere, knowing that they had the real motivation to win even more so than ourselves, something they were really going for with the top 8 that mattered to them. So I think all those factors going into the game was why I was a little bit kind of concerned about how things would go. And obviously I was missing a number of players as well. Carter Vickers, Maida, Jota can't play yet, James Forrest is out, we've obviously lost Kyogo. Yeah, it kind of went like I thought it would. I didn't think we'd be 2-0 down within 5 minutes, but it was a fear that they would get an early goal because I knew they would come out flying, and we have a tendency to struggle with that in Europe, like we saw in Dortmund. So, yeah, I guess in the end, maybe part of it is relief, the fact that it wasn't like a 6-7-0-er, because I think that was probably in a lot of our minds when they go 2-0 up after 5 minutes. So the fact we came back, made it a game with missing all of these players and with guys like Daniel Cummins, Dane Murray, Lewis Palmer playing at the end. I just think it was one of those. Still frustrating to lose, but generally okay in the grand scheme of things. How many swear words were you saying at 7:05 in the morning when we're 2-0 down?
Well, unfortunately, my totally legal and on board football stream that I was watching it on collapsed in the first 5 minutes. So I actually missed it froze after the first goal, and then I turned it on and it was 2-0. So I was like, there was plenty of expletives at that point. So I had to sort of rewind and go and see what happened. I kind of expected it, to be honest. Like because of my job, I actually watched quite a lot of the Premier League, and Aston Villa were a side that I probably would have been really afraid of just because of the way they play. The players that they have, like Morgan Rogers, as you say, Jacob Ramsey, Bailey on the right wing, and the way that they play, Ollie Watkins as well. The way that they play is generally very direct and very through the middle, and it's strong, powerful runs, and it's really like I think they averaged like 4 passes before they scored last year. Like that's kind of the way that they play. That scared me because of the way that Celtic play and also the lack of pace in Celtic's defence. I always thought that would be an issue. I thought it would be more of an issue down Greg Taylor's side than Johnson's side. I thought Johnson got caught out a couple of times. That was before his goal line clearance kind of changed his performance. He was excellent from then on, but he was caught out a good few times by the power of Morgan Rogers. And then I think just watching, I don't want to single him out too much, but watching a player of Yang's quality when you're 2-0 down in the Champions League and you get a couple of opportunities like Celtic did before they scored the goal, and then he's just so wasteful with the ball because he's just not good enough at this level. It's so frustrating. And that's probably why Celtic have brought in Alexis Jota, because you just can't carry players like Yang at this level if you're 2-0 down, if you need to get back into the game. But once, I think it came just after the Ollie Watkins chance where Johnson gets back onto the line. It was actually Johnson that led to the chance because he got absolutely burned by Morgan Rogers again. And then he got in for the goal line clearance. Once that goes in, the game kind of turns. And the 2 goals the Celtic score, like this is what I've been most pleased with in terms of Celtic this season in the Champions League, is the goals that they've scored have been Celtic goals. They've been passing, movement, skill, and quality in the final third. It hasn't just been a corner that we get lucky on. This wasn't really a backs to the walls performance. This was like when Celtic were able to get themselves and stamp their authority on the game, they did so with real quality, and they deserved the 2 goals. The 2 goals were unbelievable. Like the first goal, the movement from Taylor to get in behind and just the passing to create that chance. But then the second goal, from the flick from Engels, the movement from Hatate, and even just the ball from Hatate. Sometimes Celtic get into that position and they fluff their lines. It goes miles in the air, but that was just on a tee for Adamida. So like overall, I'm pretty satisfied. Like some context for the quality of Aston Villa, because I know they're not the glamorous name of Real Madrid or Man City or Chelsea or any of the other so-called bigger English teams. They're selling their second choice striker for 77 million today. He's gone to, I know it's to Saudi, so it's kind of boosting the thing again, but like Ollie Watkins cost 40 million. Like if you look at the strength of the squads, the cost of the squads, Celtic sold their best player for 10 million to Rennes, who are relegation fodder in the Ligue 1. Ollie Watkins or Aston Villa are selling their second choice striker for 70 million, which is more than most of our squad combined is worth. So some context in that. Aston Villa may not be the glamorous name, but they're still English giants who have the spending power of English teams. So I think Celtic did really well. I'm overall in defeat, I'm pretty happy with how we played.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I've never really watched Aston Villa, if I'm honest. While Emery's in charge, so tonight was, a bit of a kind of rude awakening. I obviously knew that they would be a good side, but they really do have some class players. I mean, Tielemans in the middle of the park is a hell of a player. And the one thing I would say is, I think we did rattle them a bit. Like I think when we got our 2 goals, they didn't look the same team, and the crowd were incredibly quiet. I thought, I mean, that's just kind of English supporters in general. I mean, I know they made some noise before the game, but when it was 2-2, you could only hear the Celtic fans. I would love to have a go at Aston Villa at Celtic Park with our full team. Carter Vickers in that defence, Tierney at left back, Jota or Maida in the team. I know Ida did brilliantly, but another striker there as well. Because I think Celtic would be able to give Villa a really good game, and I think we could actually beat Villa at Celtic Park with our full team. So I guess that's one of the frustrations for me tonight, is that, and it may have been unavoidable, to be honest, but we just kind of went in with so many players missing, and I know a lot of them, like Carter Vickers' injury, you can't do much about that, but like Daizen Maida last week, don't get yourself sent off and miss this game. And he's going to miss the first leg of the playoff tie as well. We can come on to that. Obviously, the Kyogo stuff. Do you hold on to Kyogo for another week so he could have played in the game? Would it have made that much difference? Because obviously Ida scored a couple of goals. I just didn't feel we were able to fully put Celtic across, and part of it is this whole like English football looking down on us, and like I feel like a lot of, and I know we gave them a game tonight, but I feel like a lot of Villa fans would be like, oh, is that all Celtic had to offer? When in reality, I think Celtic have a lot more to offer when we have our better players playing. But I thought the team did fairly well. The goals were great, as you say. Ida's first goal is an unbelievable finish. I mean, I couldn't even dream of getting my leg up that high. So it's a brilliant finish. The second goal is the best goal of the game, though. Like the movement and the finish from Ida's good as well. The way he just lifts it into the roof of the net, and we had a couple of chances second half. Hatate had that one just wide of the post. So I think you're right. Like, it's a different world we're up against here. We're up against a team with one of the richest teams on the planet, Villa, who have all these players that they've spent so much money on, and an unbelievable manager. And they beat Bayern Munich earlier on in the campaign. So that's what you're dealing with at Villa Park. So yeah, I mean, fine. Defeat's never nice, but I agree with you. I thought there was positive things to see. You would have been delighted for Adam Ida, I guess, to finally break his goal scoring drought with not one but 2 goals.
Yeah, and I thought he did really well outside of that as well. Like, he got in behind a couple of times. I think he showed his pace a couple of times, which was nice to see. Slightly unlucky, maybe could have pulled it back to Palma when Kun played him through.
I thought he should have.
But again, and then you're sort of think, Adamida's history at pulling back chances like that isn't great either. So you're like, is he almost better just shooting anyway? But yeah, like overall, I probably agree with you in terms of at home with Maeda in particular. Like the right back they brought on in particular, I think they could change the game when Matty Cash went down injured and went off injured, because that's when Celtic started to get a foothold. And then I think just with even just a better player than Yang, like I'd imagine Jota would have at his peak. Jota would have had a field day out there. I thought Kun was probably a little bit disappointing again tonight. Just seems a bit anonymous in these bigger Champions League games.
He did have one pass that was unbelievable at the start of the second half.
That was the one to Ida, or the he did have that, but outside of that, just probably looking for a little bit more. Trusty, I have to say, was phenomenal tonight. Like, playing on the wrong side of the defense with Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think like maybe Trusty is probably better at that than Cameron Carter-Vickers is, because he has a little bit more pace. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers might have struggled with Ollie Watkins' pace tonight, which I know it's unusual to say Carter-Vickers would struggle, but I think maybe with when a player gets on a half turn, that's where Carter-Vickers is probably at his worst, whereas Trusty's like really strong in that aspect. So yeah, like it's one of those where you're just coming away thinking we'd have a good crack at them, and I think we don't like losing to English teams for that snobbishness. But I think a lot of Aston Villa, and not that it matters at all, to be honest, but I think a lot of English fans might have watched that game and thought maybe Celtic aren't relegation fodder for the Championship after all. I think that Celtic definitely established themselves as like, yeah, we're not quite Aston Villa's level, but we're definitely up there. Like we're not absolutely terrible in comparison to these European giants.
No, I agree with that totally. And listen, it didn't look like that 5 minutes in, but I thought we were able to play some stuff during the game. And again, there was so many factors going against the team tonight. The fact that we didn't need a result must have been, some sort of thing. The fact that we're going in and they absolutely needed a result in front of their own fans. And as we say, they're a really good team and we're missing all our players. So yeah, I thought it was a solid effort. A bit of a frustration for me that we keep conceding goals in batches at this level, like concede that first goal and then concede the second one so quickly. It was like reminiscent of Dortmund, and like it's an unbelievable strike from Rodgers. I'm not sure if it takes a deflection, but regardless, like it's a brilliant strike, but it just felt quite like Dortmund. I think, Adeyemi scored one for Dortmund that was an unbelievable strike. So I don't know if we're just unlucky and these unbelievable goals are going in against us. But also, like, when we do concede a goal, it just seems like you kind of feel, at the very least, like the opposition are going to get a real big chance a couple of minutes later. So, and I'm trying to think, I don't know why that is. It seems like it's been the case with Celtic, certainly for the last 4 or 5 seasons in Europe, that when we concede one, we very quickly concede another. It doesn't always happen. Like, is it because the team aren't used to going behind in games and it doesn't happen domestically? Are they carrying some sort of like baggage of Celtic away from home in Europe? But like, you're looking at, the next tie, Real Madrid, Bayern, and I think we can be competitive at Celtic Park, but away from home, you're thinking like, if you lose a goal there and you lose another one quickly, then suddenly like the game's kind of over. And I know tonight we came back, so it was, I guess the team deserve credit because we scored a couple of goals in quick succession, but they need to find a way if they concede a goal just to kind of keep things tight for like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's probably a mixture of a lot of things. Like the first thing that springs to mind is sort of an inexperience in the competition, in that, like if you look at the team outside of Cal McGregor, Greg Taylor, and that's sort of it. Atate played 2 seasons now in the Champions League. Like there's only like 3 or 4 players in there that have played Champions League on more than 2 or 3 seasons. So I think if just having the wherewithal to slow the game down, calm the atmosphere down a little bit for 5 minutes, but also I think you can't discount the opposition's role in it all, and sort of where Celtic are weakest. And where Celtic are weakest is playing under pressure at the back when a team are really good at pressing. Dortmund are really good at pressing. Aston Villa are really good at pressing. And then you're trying to curb their momentum because they've got their tails up. But also then that's where Celtic are weakest because they're not used to that pressure at a domestic level. So they need to get better at passing out from the press. And sometimes they need to just be better at getting the ball out, and just like getting the ball out, get their players back into shape, make the opposition slow it down, and just kind of calm it down for 5 to 10 minutes. Because it is an issue, and against Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, sorry, they will get punished again if they can't just concentrate. So that like that, it's kind of up to the players on the pitch at that point. I don't think that's a Brendan Rodgers thing. I think that's just the players just need to use their brains. They need to just take a deep breath, calm things down. Cal McGregor needs to be safer on the ball. Just get Arnie Engels, pull him back for 5 minutes, and just like soak it up. Because like in the second half, where Aston Villa started piling on the pressure before they got the third goal, before they got the penalty, like Celtic were soaking up pressure quite well. Like they weren't panicking on the ball. They weren't giving it straight back. They weren't, before. I think there was one where the ball was passed back to Schmeichel, and it was the wrong pass, and that's what Celtic have been doing. They've just been, it's unforced errors that they need to cut out, and if they can cut out that, like I think they've done pretty well this season in just packing it and being a little bit more tight and more solid when it comes to the pressure. And Brendan Rodgers sort of deserves credit after that, because it looked like another year of misery for Celtic in the Champions League when Dortmund came to town. So I think improvement overall, but yeah, just unforced errors need to be cut down.
Yeah, and part of that tonight was some of the players that you had on, and I mean this with the greatest respect. I think Dane Murray's got a bright future ahead of him, but Dane Murray's played 1 game for Celtic, maybe 2 actually against Midtjylland, and you're putting him into an environment like that. You kind of you can't be too surprised when Dane Murray's making a mistake like that, and hopefully he takes that positively and learns from it. And obviously Daniel Cummins coming on, like again, is making his debut for Celtic in the Champions League away to Aston Villa in a game like that. And Palma's coming on and Yang starting. I just think it was difficult tonight in many ways. The real positive I'm clinging on to, and it's not a case of clinging on to actually, like Kieran Tierney makes such a difference to that team. Like Greg Taylor's, great domestically. I actually hope Greg Taylor sticks around. I think he's been a good player for Celtic. But Tierney's a total game changer. The amount of times Greg Taylor was getting the ball. There's one moment in the first half where I think he ended up passing out to play, Greg Taylor, or something like that, and he had a few options. And I'm just thinking in my head, if that's Kieran Tierney right there, Kieran Tierney's driving with that, he's getting a foul or he's getting us up the pitch, worst case scenario. Like, Kieran Tierney's an absolute game changer for Celtic, and I hope he comes in this month. You look at our options off the bench, and having someone like Maida or Jota coming off the bench, or James Forrest coming off the bench, like, we'll be a lot better for this playoff tie. I think Carter Vickers back in the team as well. The difficulty is that the playoff tie is just like near on impossible. I don't know if is that Adidas's slogan. Maybe they can work something out for as impossible as nothing. It feels kind of impossible to me. Have you any other thoughts in the game? Any players, anything before we move on to the draw?
Overall, I think if you look at the quality off the bench, that's where Celtic are lacking. If we can get to the point where it's Maeda or a Jota coming off the bench instead of a Yang starting and Palma coming off the bench for him, or like you say, it's Taylor coming on for Kieran Tierney as opposed to having nobody in that position. We probably need another centre half if with Cameron Carter-Vickers out injured, that we're down to Dane Murray coming off the bench in the Champions League. Like, there's still probably plenty of positions that Rodgers is looking at in terms of, we need reinforcements here and there. So it's a good season. I think he's done enough now to merit getting these players in. So, I think there might have been a little bit of political movement from Rodgers there with those 3 subs.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have many options either, so it's it was a tricky one tonight. As I keep saying, I thought the team came out of that with a fair bit of credit. Disappointing to lose that late goal. I mean, if you lose 3-2, I do think you feel a bit better about things. 4-2 seems tough, but listen, Villa missed a lot of chances. Schmeichel made a lot of big saves. Watkins completely fluffed a penalty. I've not seen a penalty like that in a while. I don't know if it was anything to do with our player scuffing the penalty spot up. I know John McGinn
was holding the ball. Maybe he was actually scuffing it up for.
And he, by the way, John McGinn completely bodied Arnie Engels for that third goal. Like that was tough to see. And I thought Engels had a good game, but it just shows that at that top level, and you're talking about a Scottish player here, but a very good one. John McGinn just so strong. I mean, I didn't enjoy seeing him playing against Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, like, I thought Arnie Engels was like really good today and did some of the dirty work quite well today. You can't hold John McGinn bodying someone with his backside off the ball against anybody, because he's literally got the strongest arse in the world. So, it was quite the little narrative going on with I know the TNT commentators absolutely loved the idea of John McGinn coming up against Celtic. So look, he could be playing for Celtic and might not be the player that he is today. So we never know. But it wasn't pleasant. But it was also funny. It was a funny side story that John McGinn is Aston Villa's captain while the Aston Villa fans are losing their minds about Celtic support. So enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think John McGinn will play for Celtic in years to come. So hopefully we've got that to look forward to. Right, just finally on this point, the league phase is over now. Celtic finished 21st out of 36 teams, so decent enough. 3 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats. And if you take yourself back to the start of when the draw was made, actually, I think you'd have been pretty happy to say that Celtic would win 3, draw 3 and lose 2, given that the fixtures were still tough. I know people are saying we get easy fixtures, and they were favourable, but we still had Dortmund away, Atalanta away, Villa away. These are all top teams who are going to fancy going pretty far in the tournament, and Club Brugge have qualified and they're a good side, and Dinamo Zagreb have somehow gone out with 11 points, which is pretty ridiculous. And Leipzig had a tough campaign, but they're a good side. It's really only Young Boys and Bratislava that I would view as being games that Celtic absolutely should win. So happy enough with that. Final actual point on this, that kit is a cracker. Absolutely love that kit that Celtic had on tonight. So we move forward. UEFA posted this, so it's the road to Munich. And it shows that Celtic will face either Bayern Munich or Real Madrid in the UEFA Champions League knockout playoff round. We'll find out exactly who on Friday. The first leg will be at Celtic Park, 11th or 12th of February. So what's that, 2 weeks' time? Less than 2 weeks. Second leg away from home the following week. If we manage to get through Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, no laughing, please. We get Atletico Madrid or Bayer Leverkusen. So who do you fancy then? Do you fancy Mbappe and Bellingham and Vinicius and Modric, or do you want to go for Kane and Musiala and Gnabry and Coman and Sané? What do you think?
It's just it's an impossible choice, isn't it? It's like choosing what way to die.
Do you actually have one you're leaning towards?
It's going to sound it's going to sound ridiculous. So please allow me the ridiculousness of choosing between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. But I do think that potentially Bayern Munich suit us better than Real Madrid do, because I look at Real Madrid and I see Mbappe running the absolute legs off Greg Taylor, or Rodrigo, or Bayram Diaz, or Jude Bellingham, whoever it might be. I think they play more of their ball in areas where Celtic are not good. They're a counter-attacking team a lot of the time, just pace and power, which Celtic can't deal with. Whereas Bayern Munich, a little bit more controlled under Vincent Kompany. And although like Musiala is probably one of the best players in the world at the minute, as is Harry Kane, I think Celtic are able to counteract that a little bit better. I think they'll be able to push them out to the wing a little bit more, and there's not that frightening pace outside of Leroy Sané. I don't think Gnabry's probably not the quality of player he was 2-3 years ago, but yeah, if I had to choose between one or the other, I think we stand a better chance against Bayern Munich than we do against Real Madrid, simply down to a pace and power thing.
All right, I'm just looking to see, because I've not actually been following the European leagues. Bayern are top of the Bundesliga, having a really good season. Oh, and look at that, Real Madrid are top of La Liga. So, like, it genuinely is. I mean, I know we're kind of having a wee laugh. I think it's pretty brutal. Like, I would have really liked a tie that we could have gone into and had some sort of chance. And I know there'll be someone in the comments, and hopefully more than one person, believing that we can beat Real Madrid or Bayern Munich over two legs. And listen, stranger things have probably happened. I guess Leicester won the league and all of that stuff. I would have liked a tie where we could be really competitive. First leg's going to be at Celtic Park, so I think we can be competitive in that game. You know, I think either or, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, I think you know, that's a game we can try to avoid defeat or try to win. Clearly we're going to be going out to try and win it. I'm not saying we will. I think it's just the fact it's a two-legged tie, and then even if you get a positive result, you've got to go over there to the Bernabeu or the Allianz against a team that's going to fancy putting you in your place. So personally, I don't see much hope for us in terms of making it through to the next round, but I guess they're glamorous, and we didn't get too much glamour in our 8 league phase games, so we're certainly going to get glamour here regardless of whether it's Real Madrid or Bayern. I guess Real Madrid are probably more glamorous, slightly. They're the current holders and all of that stuff, but we did play them a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer Bayern just for the sort of the change up from getting tanked by Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. And also, like, although Bayern are top of the league in the Bundesliga, like they haven't had the best record in the Champions League this year. Like, obviously they're in outside
both of them,
the top 8, but yeah, and Real Madrid, like, for all them being top of the Liga as well, there's talk of Ancelotti being pretty much gone already. Like, he's definitely going to be gone by the end of the season, but he was under pressure not so long ago. But I think Bayern are more liable to make a mistake and almost be a little bit lackadaisical about the tie. Like, they beat Slovan Bratislava 3-1 tonight or last night, and if Slovan Bratislava can get a goal against Bayern Munich away in the Allianz Arena, then Celtic can certainly get a goal against Bayern Munich. I'm not saying that we're going into it anyway favourites, but I think I would fancy Celtic against Bayern in the way that they've been playing in the Champions League this year against Real Madrid, who just turn into monsters when it comes to knockout stages of the Champions League. So I'm also fed up with going to the Bernabeu and having to watch their players kick the ball around our players for half an hour and throwing themselves around the place. Like, I am sick of it. So the novelty of playing Real Madrid has well and truly worn off.
Yeah, I was there the last time at the Bernabeu, and it was not fun, I'll tell you that. 5-1 that game finished. I was also at the Allianz Arena for Scotland's opening game of the Euros in the summer, and that finished 5-1 as well, so I don't have great memories of either of those stadiums. But listen, I mean, it's going to be box office. Celtic Park, first leg. To be fair, like, as much as maybe having the second leg at home might give us a better chance, I think having the first leg is good, because at least as I say, I think we can be competitive in that game, and maybe you're able to earn like another famous night to go along with the Barcelona one a few years back. And then just, you never know. See, I'm gradually talking myself around to us having some sort of hope in this. I guess the main thing is we're there. And as much as we don't want it to be a case of like anything's a bonus now, we're just happy to be here. Like, we want to go and try and, win the tie, as difficult as that may be. But the main thing is we've made it to the knockout rounds. Like, it's you would much rather be there and have this tie to look forward to than not have made the top 24. So listen, everything is good. Daizen Maeda is going to miss the first leg. UEFA have upped his ban to a 2-match ban, which seems daft to me. We do have Jota now, of course. He'll be able to be registered for that first leg. But Maeda is going to be a miss regardless. Any other thoughts on anything at all?
No, I think the home fixture, like you said, that is massive for Celtic, because it avoids the situation where Celtic do go over to, say, the Allianz and get beat 5-0. God forbid it doesn't happen. But if Celtic go out and lose the first game away and they're already 3-0 down, the second game, the atmosphere is a little bit more dead, and it's almost like they're almost out before they're given a chance. Whereas I think you always have a chance in the first leg at Parkhead, and then that can bring you into a game where you could potentially get something out of it. And then if you do go on to lose 3-1 or 4-1 in the second leg, at least you've given yourself the best opportunity in the first leg. So not to be too defeatist, we're not out just yet, but I think it'll be a good tester for where Celtic are at in when it comes to knockouts and Champions League, because the group stage was favourable for the ties that we got. So this is a matter of now, like, have Celtic actually learned anything from the Dortmund game, or were we just playing against weaker opposition? So, we'll wait and see. Hopefully we'll have Kieran Tierney for that as well. Not looking promising from what Rodgers was saying during the week, but also saw a little rumour, maybe it's a self-leaked rumour, that Celtic might be going in for Tyrell Malacia from Manchester United on loan if they can't get Kieran Tierney. So I think that would be an interesting little addition if it is real. But I have a feeling that might be coming from the inside of Celtic to make sure that we get this Kieran Tierney thing done.
Yeah, we need a left back. If it's Tierney or if it's not Tierney, we need someone in for the next 6 months. And same goes for a striker as well. So, we've got Jota to look forward to getting him up to speed, as I keep saying. Maeda's going to be back for the second leg, Carter Vickers. I think James Forrest has been a big miss as well. I mean, someone like James Forrest tonight would have been a great sub to have. So, yep, that's where we're at, everyone. It's big dog stuff, isn't it? Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in the Champions League knockouts. It's tough, but not impossible. Thank you very much, Enda, for coming on and chatting. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And click subscribe if you've enjoyed this and haven't done it yet. It's much appreciated. Back tomorrow.